Hey guys, welcome to Method Mondays. My name is Robbie and I'm one of the expert IELTS trainers here at IELTS Coach Pro. Today we're looking at the top 5 tips for IELTS reading. So you definitely want to watch the full video because these are some really important tips that you need to know. You also want to click that subscribe button because we make IELTS methods videos every week and they're really helpful and you don't want to miss them. So subscribe to our channel. And let's get into these top 5 tips for IELTS reading, okay? Tip number 1 is read the instructions, okay? This is extremely important, but not only reading the instructions, but following the instructions is critical because if you do not do exactly what the instructions say in IELTS reading, you will get every question that goes with that set of instructions wrong. So you need to do this right. You need to make sure you can understand the instructions and you need to avoid some common errors that people make in terms of not following the instructions properly. So I want to show you a few examples. The first thing that people do sometimes is instead of writing true or false, they will write T or F. However, the instructions clearly say to write the full word true or false on your answer sheet. Same is true for yes, no question types. Make sure you spell out the full word, yes or no. Do not write Y or N on your answer sheet or you will be marked wrong. The second common error that people make when it comes to not following instructions is they will see a yes or no question type and instead of writing yes, they will write true, and instead of writing no, they will write false. This is not okay because there's a certain set of questions that is true or false. There's a different set of questions that are yes, no. You need to make sure you know which one you're looking at, and if they're asking for true, false, make sure you write true or false. If they're asking for yes, no, make sure you write yes or no, okay? The second or third common error that people make is not following the word counts. So this one is a little bit confusing, so I'm going to show a graphic for you. If the question instructions say, write no more than 2 words and or a number from the passage for each answer, that means you could write 1 word, such as apples. You could write 2 words, such as red apples. But you could not write 3 words, such as big red apples. If you write big red apples, even if that matches perfectly with what the question says and matches perfectly with what the passage says, that question will be marked wrong for you because you did not follow the instructions because they said no more than 2 words and you wrote 3 words. That would be wrong, okay? Because they said no more than 2 words and or a number, you could also write 1 word and a number, such as 5 apples, or 2 words and a number, such as 5 red apples. But again, you cannot write 3 words. You also cannot write 3 words and a number. So you cannot write 5 big red apples, but you could just answer with the number 5 because when it says no more than 2 words and or a number, it means you can have up to 2 words and a number, or you can have up to 2 words or a number. So 2 words is fine, a number is fine, or 2 words and a number is fine. But it's very important that you understand this. It's very important that you follow these instructions so that you can get the right answers. The last set of instructions that people often fail to follow is for a question type called matching features. And this is where they will give you a list of answer options. Normally, these answer options are people, and they will tell you like this to write the correct letter A through D in boxes 8 through 12 on your answer sheet. So if the answer to number 8 is Louisa Richardson, don't write Louisa Richardson. You write the letter A because that's what they told you to do in the instructions. It's very important. If you write Louisa Richardson, it will be marked wrong. Even if that's the correct information, You didn't follow the instructions, so you will get it wrong. You will lose all the marks for that question. You don't get any partial credit or anything like that. So make sure when it's a question like this, you write the letter that matches the correct person. Don't write the person's name in your answer sheet. And also, it's important to read the note in the instructions that says you may use any letter more than once. So the letter A might be the answer for 2 of these, and that's fine. The letter B might also be the answer for 2 or 3 of them. Be sure to keep that in mind as you do this question type. All right, that was tip number 1. And now tip number 2 is follow a method for each of the different reading question types in IELTS. So IELTS reading is very confusing and very tricky because there are 15 different types of questions that they could ask you. I bet you didn't know that was possible, that they have come up with 15 different ways to ask you questions in IELTS reading. And it's kind of ridiculous. It's pretty confusing, but each of them has a certain format, and there's a really good method or a technique for each of these question types that will help you find the correct answer faster and more accurately. So you want to make sure that you've practiced each of these question types and you've chosen a method or a strategy and you've practiced that strategy and you know that it works for you, so that when you see any of these question types, you don't get stressed, you don't get confused, you know what to do. And so if you take our course, we teach you an excellent strategy or method for each of these 15 question types. We also make YouTube videos that teach you these methods, so be sure to check out our other videos on reading methods. But make sure you have a method for every question type so that you can answer your questions faster and with more accuracy. So that was tip number 2. Tip number 3 in IELTS reading is don't read every word in the passage. For most of these question types, it is not necessary, it is not recommended to read an entire reading passage in order to find the right answers. The reason for this is, depending on your reading speed, you probably will not have time to read every word in all 3 sections of IELTS reading and answer all 40 questions in 1 hour. If your reading is extremely fast, you might be able to read every word. So it's important to take a couple practice tests, and you need to know what your reading speed is. You need to know how to manage your time, but most likely you will need to use a strategy called scanning. So this is where you find some keywords in the question, you scan the reading passage for those keywords, and then once you find the piece of the reading passage that is relevant to the question that you're on, then you read that sentence or 1 or 2 sentences nearby that keyword. You read it very carefully so that you know how to answer the question correctly. There are a couple question types where we recommend reading every word in a certain paragraph or in a certain section. However, for most question types, you don't want to read every word because you simply won't have time. And if you don't finish the last 5 questions on your IELTS reading, you're losing a lot of points there. So you want to go through this fast and you want to make sure you answer every question. So that was tip number 3. Tip number 4 is you need to make sure you understand full sentences. So this is true for the questions. No matter what the question is, you need to make sure you understand the full sentence or the full question, okay? And it's also true when you're reading the passage. You don't need to read every word of the passage, but when you find the location where you think the answer is, you need to make sure you understand that full sentence where you think the answer is, okay? It's not enough to simply understand 1 or 2 words in the question, match that up with 1 or 2 words in the passage, and assume that you found the right answer. Because IELTS questions are based on meaning of full sentences usually. So if you don't understand the full sentence in the question, or you don't understand a full sentence in the passage, you're going to give wrong answers, because IELTS reading questions are based on understanding full sentences. So that was tip number 4. And last but not least, we have tip number 5. And tip number 5 is be very careful with grammar and spelling, okay? Spelling in IELTS reading should be pretty easy because all the words are in your passage. Hopefully you're not misspelling words. However, sometimes people still misspell words because there's a lot of pressure on test day. You're trying to go fast, so be really careful with your spelling. But you also need to be really careful with your grammar. And this trips a higher percentage of people up because sometimes you will see a word in the passage and you will need to change the word form when you are putting it in your answer, okay? What you need to make sure is you need to make sure that the full sentence that is the question combined with your answer, it needs to be grammatically perfect. So even if there was a certain word in the passage that is the right answer, the word form of that word in the passage might not match the grammar in the question. And if that's the case, you need to change the word form so that the grammar of your question and the grammar of your answer match perfectly. Before you go, definitely subscribe to our channel. Give this video a like if you enjoyed it. Leave us a comment. Tell us what you thought of the video. Tell us what other videos you think we should make. And share this video with your friends. And also check out www.IELTSCoachPro.com for the best online IELTS coaching with writing feedback, speaking feedback, live classes, one-on-one tutoring, tons of training videos and practice material. So check that out, and we'll see you next week on Monday for another IELTS video.